Uh, we just wrapped up week 7, and here were our picks in week 7. I lost a very frustrating matchup uh, to Cranks and Killers. You hit that one right on the nail, but um, this is a matchup that could have went my way if the ball kind of rolled in my court a few more times. Um,
Yeah. Um, Man, like I said, I mean, it was tough, right? Like Frankston Killers is really starting to roll, right now. And they just had, a lot more quality games, from their headline players.
yeah,
A lot of their big time players had like 4 games, etc.
yeah,
The
yeah,
way. And so it was just going to be tough.
yeah.
But I mean, Beasley was outstanding. MV was, doing that MVP thing. Randall had a, amazing week, especially a great Sunday. Um, Mitchell's getting it done, but
No, no,
he had, look,
Mitch.
no, 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 no. Look at the stats. The stats were good. It's the blocks. It's the blocks, right? Like you want Mitchell to give you the blocks, and he's
Only 3 blocks, 3 or 4 blocks last year. That's this past week in week 7. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable from Mitchell Robinson. I mean, he is here because of shot blocking. That's the only reason he's here. So,
he doesn't do block, man.
I want a refund. I want a refund because he's not getting it done for me right now. And
So is Mitchell on the trading block? Is this your announcement to the association?
whatever's gonna motivate him, man. Whatever's gonna motivate him. But I tell you what, I don't want you if you're not going to do the things that we have you on, here on the roster to do, then I need you to go somewhere else.
Hmm.
So, if anybody's interested, reach out to me. I'm listening. You feel me?
I hear that, man.
Um,
I hear that, man. Some of these players need to hear that. And then, I'll quickly touch on what Cranston Killer, man. D'Angelo Russell is still resting. Yeah,
is that why he missed the game?
man, he was resting. He might have been really hurt. Who knows?
Yeah, I thought
But
he had like a knee contusion or something like that.
yeah, man, I don't believe any of that stuff coming out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Minnesota is not interested in winning games. Like they're not interested in winning games. Like and I don't and maybe their coach is, maybe because he doesn't want to lose his job. But as a franchise, I don't see why Minnesota would want to, like, maybe you should be concerned about Cat because he probably is healthy and fine and ready to go right now, but they're gonna keep him
Cat,
out as long as possible.
Cat
Um,
need to take a vaccine or he needs something. Like yeah.
I would if I was Minnesota,
There's no telling. There's no telling what's going through his head.
if
What,
I
what am I saying?
if I was Minnesota, I wouldn't bring him back. I would be running out my young lineups. Get Edwards out there, Vanderbilt, Culver, whoever else
Please,
is on that
please
team.
stop putting
I'm running my G League
that.
lineup
Nah,
out
cat.
there if I can.
Nah, cat needs to get out. Gets out there because I mean it's really cold in Minnesota, right? And so you start losing. It just starts to become a habit, right? Like if Cat doesn't get out there, get the chemistry, get things rolling. One thing leads to another, and then all of a sudden, Cat is smoking weed and out of the NBA. So
That
no,
that
Cat
that
Cat needs to
that
Cat,
D'Angelo
Cat
Russell
needs to get.
that D'Angelo Russell Andrew Wiggins trade with Golden State is really starting to affect them because they owe Golden State a first round pick if they don't land. I think it's a top 3 protected pick. So if they're not in that
Top three
top three,
protected.
if they're not in that top 3, then that pick goes to the Warriors. and I think they want to be in the top three. Uh, so I think their incentive is to lose. Um,
Well, I mean, just think about. I mean, the lottery is a little bit more flat, as far as the numbers. I mean, look who won the number one pick, this past year. Um, so like, it's kind of tricky.
Minnesota can't afford to be giving away a top three pick or a top 4 or 5 pick, whatever that pick is going to end up being. They can't afford to give it away, especially not to Golden State.
They could talk to the commissioner and they could figure it out, man. The commissioner, the commissioner will arrange things to make things fair.
Yeah.
So I'm not even worried about that. Oh,
All right.
just to get you a little bit more pissed off. Did you know Brandon Ingram had 7 blocks against you, and your team had a total of 12 blocks?
Yeah, I'm just like lost when it comes to what happened with our blocks this week because we're not a great shot blocking team, but 12 blocks, like I'm just I don't understand what happened there. But yeah, Brandon Ingram, and then who had a strong, who really led the charge was Jared Allen, who had 7 blocks in one game, early on in the week. So um, you know, I knew that was like, oh no, it wasn't 7 blocks, it was like 5 blocks. But he basically just destroyed it. He had like a 23 point, 18 rebound, and 5 block game on Monday. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a long week, man. Um,
It's a tough
but
one.
but I get it. Let's move on to Amherst and Rucker Park. Rucker Park took care of business. What did you see in that matchup?
Park and Amherst. Uh, Amherst is injured. Like you can barely get enough players, on the basketball court. Like it's just become he's just become a laughable opponent, at this stage. And so it's just really bad on that side of the floor. And Rocket Park took care of business, right? A man's down, man. You gotta get your victories,
Yeah,
while you can. So
yeah.
that's pretty much what I took. I mean, he was essentially you know,
Horrible team.
playing against no one. Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah. And you know, um, they brought out pretty much their full team, and we talked about Lonzo and with the week 6 wrap up. But Lonzo was back in week 7, and came out the gate shooting. Man, had a uh, had a game where he even, I don't know, was it this week or last week? No, it was last week. But he had a
mhm.
7 threes game, hit 7 threes against, I think it was Milwaukee, and then this week he had a four. He had a game where he shot 4 threes, hit 4 threes, 5 threes, and then 4 threes again. So he wasn't playing, man, and he's really shooting the lights out and doing it efficiently. That's what I like when I see Lonzo Ball's numbers. He's shooting last 3 or 4 games, last 3 games, he's been shooting over 50% from the field. So with the scoring, the 3 point shooting, and the defensive stats, of course, that he can provide. He's a great rebounding guard. He really helps his team, and kind of with him in the lineup, this team kind of looks a little bit more like what we were expecting to see in the beginning of the year. Let's move on to Beantown and Bimtown. Um, the Celtics. We had the Bombers winning this one, but looks like the Celtics had something different in mind. What
Yeah,
would you like?
yeah. So, um, Bentown had a 1 game advantage, that's not really where the win came from. Beantown Bombers on his side, the injuries just continue to pile on. Wood went down early. Looks like he's looking at a long-term ankle injury, which could last a couple of weeks. They still haven't given the official report of what his timetable is, but he'll be evaluated on a week-to-week basis. And KD was not allowed to be KD. I don't know if a lot of people got to see the game, this past Friday, but essentially, KD was held out of the game originally for some contact tracing stuff, but then, they approved him to get in the game. So he went in at the end of the first quarter. Then I think it was the third quarter, they were challenging a foul call and they decided, or no, some league official, came down and told KD that he has to leave the game because somebody, a close contact was positive, and so he couldn't resume the game, and so that kind of shortened his week. He wasn't able to play in the Saturday game against Philly, which kind of sucks. And so KD stats, he was basically only got a game from in there. RJ showed some sign of regression. He wasn't good. This is RJ Barrett. And so that's concerning. And Halliburton, he continues to be great. Zach LaVine continues to make his case, for the All-Star. And then I look on the other side. And Bentown answered the weekly call, right? Like I was very skeptical, about this team, and it showed in my power rankings, dropped them somewhere like 7 or 8 spots, from the initial preseason rankings. But Luka, is in shape. He's doing his thing. The MVP chants are there. And also Norman Powell, was a strong pickup. He looks to be back. Booker looks well rested because he's back to having a Booker type of week with the percentages, the points, etc. The assists don't look like they're unfortunately coming back. That's just what happens. When Chris Paul joins you.
Yeah, he had 11. He had 11 assists tonight though against Boston. So, maybe but as you mentioned, it hasn't been the norm. So it's probably
He just loves this. I'm thinking something happened when he was a kid, or something in college. Because wasn't that the same team he put up like 70 points on? Was the Boston Celtics? He had that crazy game. And so Booker he just loves just putting up crazy numbers against the Celtics, and I like him for that. Like him even more for that. Zion's like free throws percentages is respectable.
yeah.
And so Bentown continues to play like this. They're going to gain my trust. Because this was a scary weekend. I mean, I mentioned the injuries on Beantown on Boston Bombers side of things, but Bentown still would have won this matchup. Even if both teams were healthy. So Bentown is starting to move in the right direction.
Agreed. Okay, so let's look at your matchup. Brooklyn Phoenix destroyed True Grit, and so now that makes it 2 weeks in a row where uh, you know True Grit's come out on the end of losses. This after you pointed out in the power rankings that they were the only team who hadn't lost any matchups, but um, going the other way. What happened
Yeah.
in your matchup when you?
Yeah, the losses are starting to pile on. True Grit, I mean, his percentages were horrendous. Defense was lacking. Assist to turnover ratio close to 1. Nothing gritty about his performance in week 7. It was just awful. And I know he had some injuries with Jaylen Brown, uh, you know, but on the other side, Brooklyn Phoenix had some injuries as well. Paul George decided to not play the last two games because he was nursing some injury. And so, it's very concerning, as far as this team's outlook. But they were at least able to win the matchups that they're supposed to win, right? So maybe if Anthony Davis gets rolling, we can see some sort of a higher floor. And on my side of the town, it was promising to see Graham finally shooting over 400%. Unfortunately, of course, he suffers a groin injury in his last good shooting game. Um, where in the world is Ben Simmons? Like, Ben Simmons is, just been all over the place, but he gave us just enough. Holiday was a present surprise. He put in um, a handful of stats for the week. Um, and the biggest reason why there should be a concern factor with True Grit is because I reviewed my stats for the week, and there's not many teams I would have beaten. Um, but that's the beauty of head-to-head matchups, right? You play one opponent, and the job is to beat that one opponent. And so we continue to roll. And so
Yeah.
just
Looks looks like
lucky.
looks like you had the right one this weekend. Let's move on to Dame Stop and the King's Landing Kings. We both, of course, picked Dame Stop, but turns out the matchup was a little bit closer than maybe we thought. Um,
Yeah, I mean it's I mean 4-on-5 it's 4-on-8 basketball, right? And LaMelo had like a career high 37 or 38 points or whatever he had. Like, he's just been out of this world, especially getting more minutes with the Rozier and the Devontae Graham injury. That guy is just amazing. And then Curry had like a 60-point game, right? Beal had another outstanding performance, and
yeah,
Bam is good. So I mean, he's going to be able to cobble together, a 3-6 or 4-5 loss, just off the strength of these outstanding stats that, some of, or the four players that I only give credit to on that team. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's more about, his players having to play at an unbelievable level to just get a respectable loss.
yeah, and in their defense, I don't know what happened with Aaron Gordon, but he got hurt and must have been in the lineup and didn't have there was no sensible uh um substitution to be made for him. Again, when you look at the whole entire bench, I mean George Hill is on the bench for this team, injured. Kevin Knox, God knows why he's still on that team, but he's on the team. Kevon Looney. I mean, Kings Landing Kings ownership. If you're listening, man, I mean, you know, something to think about. Something to think about.
Yeah, this is some awful shit. He's becoming the Vlade Divac of fantasy basketball. So, um,
Uh,
make some moves, shake some things up, do something a little bit different, because man, your fans are not happy.
no,
And we'll get to that. We'll get to that into a future episode.
yeah. All right, let's move on to our matchup of the week. We split on this one. Solid State against the Titans of San Juan. Um, I went with Solid State, and you went with the Titans, but looks like we either both win or we both lost because they tied. So, um, anything you notice interesting with this matchup?
Yeah. Um, Titans have a chance in any matchup that Utah's got four games. And Solid State, they're just not as strong with a James Harden Brooklyn Nets, because he's more efficient, but he doesn't have the same potency in some of his stats. And so That's good for other competing teams because you don't have to deal with that cheat code, James Harden. And I will say the Titans have got some work to do. I looked at his percentages and it was just complete yuck. His assist to turnover ratio is complete yuck. So this is certainly
Yeah.
not going to last, right? Like, and if he wants to look at what a good assist to turnover ratio, look at Solid State. Solid State was pitching a 2-to-1, on that end. Um,
Yeah. And
but but they're struggling with threes too. I'm
yeah.
I'm surprised, but it might be the combination of players. You only put 34, threes up in a week, and I think I guess I was expecting a little bit more given the construction of that roster.
Yeah, Marcus Smart is out the lineup. Um, uh, and Rashawn Holmes, who sometimes will give you some threes. He hasn't really been shooting any threes this year. I think last year he was looked more like he was going to be like kind of a stretch five, but I think that's kind of tailed off. And as you mentioned, Harden doesn't necessarily have a green light to just kind of shoot threes on every possession now. So some of that stuff has tailed off. But interesting when you consider the fact that the Titans were very close in the points category, and PJ Washington, who has been good for this team all year, really only got to play like one game this week. So um, you know, it, he could have been a little bit more of a difference maker for the team if he had the opportunity. So, but good, good effort, good effort by the Titans, and that we can wonder if uh, there's going to be concern over Solid State these next few weeks with a couple of guys at the lineup. Nance got injured, I believe last night or today. Fractured his hand. Um, Last night I believe it was fractured his hand. So um, that also is another guy that's going to be out the lineup for Solid State moving forward. Let's look at the money men who took on the Flyers. We both um, actually you went with the Flyers and I went with the money men. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I thought they had the talent to make it close, but in the end, I think you know the money one should have won the matchup. What happened in this one that from what you could see?
So Moneyman stole this one. FF just completely choked.
Yeah.
Like it was like really bad. I mean, Jokic, only played 2 games. I mean, 2 games for the week, because one game got postponed
Mhm.
for later on in the season. And don't get me wrong, he was phenomenal and had a career high at one game. But Frankfurt Flyers just had some complete duds, right? And Ellington gave him essentially nothing. His superstars, Fox and Leonard, were great. His percentages were really solid. But the defense is just so bad right now. 19 steals and 13 blocks across. I know he had excess of like 28 games. It's just really bad. And so I think they've got to figure out something there or become even more uh, better offensively. And then Moneyman, to finish off, what he's doing. I mean, he's just grinding it out, man. Like THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr. He comes out and he has a great week out of nowhere. And then you have a Rocco sighting. And this might have been, I haven't been tracking him, but this might have happened because Dame sat out one game, and the Trailblazers have just been decimated from a roster standpoint. So it might have just been no choice, but Rocco's ready to perform. So I was surprised. Money man is just hustling because man, Frankfurt Flyers had this matchup like it was supposed to be a check mark. Given the game's advantage, especially with the postponement to that Denver game.
Yeah, give credit to DeMar DeRozan, who had a really strong week, and then getting Batum back made a big impact for the money men, especially on the defensive end. Um, yeah, but like you said, Jokic, only 2 games, but you know, two strong games. Put up a 50 piece against who did they play? Who uh, in Sacramento, and obviously when you drop 50 points, I mean that's like playing 3 games, for Jokic. So yeah, enough said about that one. Last matchup in week 7, the Syracuse Sparrows dropped the ball and played the NY Clinic.
I disagree. I think he did what he was supposed to do. Like you want to lose this matchup, and I think he did very well at that. I think NYK failed because he won this matchup, single handed. But maybe he has an out and he has a way. His team is healthy. He's got some elite players, so maybe this is the sign that things are going to get considerably better, and he'll get rolling, and maybe he sneaks his way into a play-in and then essentially gets into the playoffs.
So the NY, as you mentioned, and it sounds like you're suggesting that they could show a little bit of separation from the other bottom tier teams with a win like this. All right, well that concludes our week 7 matchup review. Um, Maybe really quickly we can in our next segment discuss our picks for week 8.